Okay. Hi, happy Let's Talk Month. I'm Meredith Talford. I'm the Innovation Manager at Fact Forward, and I'm here today interviewing Mr. ReZsaun Lewis, Executive Director for Lowcountry Youth Services. How are you this evening?
I am great. How are you?
I'm well. So Let's Talk Month encourages open communication between young people and their parents or trusted adults. And so today we're going to talk about the trusted adult piece, which is mentorship, another example of a trusted adult. Fact Forward and other organizations in South Carolina have Let's Talk Month events going on all month long. So visit our website at factforward.org/events to find one that interests you. So before we get started, ReZsaun, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. So my name is ReZsaun Lewis. I am the Executive Director of Lowcountry Youth Services. My road to mentorship was sort of a different one. I'm not somebody who grew up and then was like, hey, I'm going to mentor. It's like, no. I actually, so I graduated from North Charleston High School, grew up in North Charleston. I am from North Charleston, not Charleston, North Charleston. I always have to make that distinction. People from here know why. But I'm from North Charleston, graduated from North Charleston High School, proud graduate, go Cougars. And after I graduated, I joined the military where I served for 6.5 years as a paralegal, came back home. And I worked a few jobs and ended up teaching. I ended up at a call center. While I was working at the call center, I realized the most important thing I'd ever realized in my life, which was that I hate working simply for money. I needed to find a purpose to go with the money that I was making. So I left my job and went back to school where I became an educator. I graduated from the College of Charleston with my bachelor's degree in elementary education. And while at my first job, my first teaching job at St. Stephen Elementary School, I ended up working with an after-school program where we use, different things in terms of mentorship to work with the young men, to help the young men to better themselves. And from there, it's just grown and grown and grown to the point where I am now. But it all started with teaching with education.
So you answered my first question was, how did mentorship become a part of your life? So my second question is, let's go back and really define mentorship for our viewers.
Okay. So mentorship is really, people have different ideas what mentorship is. Mentoring is really taking the time to work with a person to help them develop skills that they need. That can be life skills, that can be job skills, that can be it's just taking someone who has a void, quote unquote, and helping fill that spot by your presence in their life. It doesn't take a degree, it doesn't take any special certifications. It just takes seeing somebody that could use your help and helping.
Mm-hmm. So you touched on my next question. You picked at my questions. So we prepared you all. So what are your thoughts surrounding the belief that mentoring is only for people who have some type of lack or young people who have some type of need or something's wrong in their life? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, so that's really a big misnomer when it comes to mentoring. I hear as an executive director of a nonprofit that works with youth development, I always hear, well, my child's bad, he needs a mentor. Like, no. Or I don't want my child in a mentoring program because I don't want people looking at him like he's a bad kid. And that's absolutely not the case. We have children in our program who come from 2-parent homes, 1-parent homes, who are adopted. It really doesn't matter, those kinds of things. It doesn't matter, if the child is making straight A's or struggling in school every day. Each child and each person needs a mentor. So there's not a place where it's only for bad kids. I'll give you an example. My son has a father in his life, believe it or not, it's me. And he's in our mentoring program. He benefits from having the tutelage of so many other positive men and so many positive young men who are also in his life that give him the game, even when he doesn't want to listen to dad.
So what are your thoughts? Because I think you make a really good point around, your son is in the mentoring program. So what are your thoughts about when mentoring, became super trendy? It was trendy to mentor. And do you think now that it's, not the hot topic right now, has that been hurtful to our young people?
Thank you. Okay. First of all, thank you for asking that question. Great question. there was a time, that mentor programs really became the hot thing for people to do. People would decide, hey, I want to get into mentoring, and as opposed to joining a program, which already, has the resources to help them, to help facilitate the mentor relationships, they decided, hey, I'm going to start a mentoring program. And a lot of those didn't work out. I mean, primarily because of the fact that, it's really hard. One, it's really hard to do on your own, to run your own mentoring program. So there's a lot of programs that came and were not able to be sustainable because of that simple fact, when it's really easy to just find an organization that's already existing, that has those resources, that already has the kids that need your assistance. You don't have to go out and find kids. You don't have to go out and find mentor support. You don't have to go out and find resources. They already exist. You just have to tag in. And I think that, those organizations, did take kids in. And when you bring, there's nothing worse that you can do to a child than to say, I'm going to be here for you, and then not be here for them. That's the worst thing you can possibly do, because now you're just yet another adult. No matter how well-meaning you were, you're just another adult that stepped into the game but couldn't stick around to the finish. Like, that's the worst thing we can do, especially to our young Black boys and girls.
I really adore your passion around this topic, but you touched on something. You said sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you a question, might be a little controversial, but
Cool.
what are your thoughts around mentoring as a volunteer? Is mentoring as a profession? Like, this is my job. My job is to make sure, like, to work with this young person for an extended period of time. What are your thoughts about compensating someone for their time?
I think, and that's a great question. Thank you also for asking that question. Another question is right in my wheelhouse. I think that anything worth having is worth, like, financially supporting. And there's been numerous studies that have shown the power of mentorship. The impact on, keeping kids off of drugs, keeping kids in school, stopping kids from going to prison or going back to prison. That's why everybody says, hey, we need a mentoring program. We need a mentoring program. We need a mentoring program. But then we say, hey, we have a mentoring program. Can y'all support us? And it's crickets in the room. We cannot say that something is so important and so needed and not provide the financial resources as a community that it takes to make those organizations exist. So if you know of somebody with the mentoring program, please support them. Send some money their way. Send them $50, send them $100. Make a pledge and support those people. Now, to the question of it being a job. There are organizations that, one,
Yes,
even if they are an organization that's the mentoring aspect of it is volunteer based, they still have staff. They still have an executive director of some sort. They probably have a finance director. They probably have a fundraising director. They probably have all these people, assistants, secretaries, all these people whose job it is to make sure that we can maintain those mentor matches. There's so much more that we don't just wake up in the morning and say, all right, kids, go run out. No, we have to pay for background checks, and we have to make sure that there are engagement opportunities. You have to make sure, some of us have to make sure we have a building to run our businesses from. So you want to make sure, like, the idea of people paying to support mentorship, it needs to happen. It needs to be just as commonplace and thought as a fire department. We wouldn't say, hey, all firemen should operate for free. We shouldn't put any money towards fire department. We wouldn't put money towards the police department. We don't put the money towards city council, county council, mayors. Like, all these people get paid. And that's not to say that you should be able to get rich off of mentorship, because no, but you definitely should be able to support yourself. That's important, right?
So I think every nonprofit leader, nonprofit executive director that's watching is thanking you right now, because a lot of times when we work in the nonprofit sector, a lot of people are like, well, don't you just get satisfaction from just knowing the work is being done, So I appreciate you being honest and transparent about it takes some type of financial investment to make sure our communities and our young people have a good quality of life. So I want to shift gears a little and ask you, how has mentoring impacted the way you parent?
It definitely has impacted the way I parent. It always makes me look at the way I treat my children. It makes me look at the way, just because I see so many of the things that my mentees go through on a day-to-day basis, whether it be at home or in school. Some of them have jobs on their jobs. Some of them have play sports and their football teams, their track teams, and all these different things. One, it makes me realize the importance of being there. I cannot, be there for all these other kids and then not be here for my kids' things. So I have to make sure that one, I'm present, even though I'm working with other people's kids a lot. I have to make sure I'm doing that, but also giving them the grace and realizing that sometimes kids get it wrong sometimes. And I've seen, situations where I have not agreed with the way that the parents have dealt with the situation. And as opposed to feeling like I need to, like crush the parents, which we should not do because we're all learning. We're all, we all make mistakes. We all mess up. None of us are perfect. I try to take that home and realize like, okay, I don't want to deal with it that way because I know how that child feels based on our trust relationship. And I don't want my children to feel that way about me. So that's definitely impacted the way that I parent my children.
Thank you. So it is Let's Talk Month, and you are a partner of ours, and we can talk about that a little later. But it's Let's Talk Month. So what do you think the role of a mentor is when it comes to helping a young person really decide their boundaries or their belief system when it comes to love, sex, and relationships?
So first of all, I want to send a special shout out to factforward.org for their work, their continued work, and making sure that children of the Lowcountry and the state as a whole are staying away from limiting risk behaviors in terms of pregnancies and STIs and things of that nature. Our work with young people up until our partnership with Fact Forward was not sex and reproductive health based, and you guys coming in and helping us to get those to get those resources that will allow us to talk to our people. One, give us the language to be able to speak, which is so important, and which is why mentorship is so important. Through the curriculum and through the training that we received, we were able to, one, develop that language to be able to have it. But two, once we were able to actually have a workshop, now our mentees look at us as experts in that area. So they'll come to us with discussions that maybe they wouldn't go to their parents with. Also, their parents are more trusting with us when it comes to having those kind of talks with their children that they're less comfortable having. So helping them to understand, what does healthy look like? Actually, I didn't tell you this, but when we did the Making Proud Choices workshp, all of my kids actually took part in it.
Your children?
Yeah, I had all my children do it with us. Yeah. So I had my then 12-year-old daughter, on her laptop because it was virtual, and she was into it. Like she had a notebook full of notes that she was taking, as like, well, Daddy, what is this kind of birth control? And having these talks that I thought we had the talk, but after having that, I realized like, oh, I didn't go nearly far enough to really prepare them. And so I felt much more as a parent, back to it impacting the way I parent. I felt much more prepared to be able to speak to my own kids. So if I can speak to them better, I know I can speak to other people's kids better. So I definitely enjoyed that. And I believe that our young men enjoyed it as well. In fact, one of our mentees actually reached out to me and asked me when we were doing it again and if he could help lead when we did it.
Wow, that is pretty powerful.
It is, yeah.
It's pretty powerful and a true testament of these programs and when they're implemented properly, but also implemented in a way that meets the needs of your specific young people.
Absolutely.
Making Proud Choices Plus, right?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you for sharing those aha moments. You actually answered my next three questions was how has the partnership been beneficial? So it sounds like you were prepared and it sounds like the young people do feel comfortable talking to you. Yeah. But can you tell us a little bit more about your mentoring program? Because there is a safe space there where they feel comfortable. So how did you create a space where your young people felt comfortable having these conversations with you?
Well, so our organization is a little different than a lot of what people think of in terms of mentorship. As opposed to like trying to match one mentor with one kid, we actually do the small group model. So we have our young men broken down into three groups. We have our elementary group, 3rd through 5th grade, middle group, 6th through 8th grade, and a high school group, 9th through 12th grade. And each group has their own specific focus. When we all come together, they all break into their individual groups so that it's not like older kids like, why do I have to deal with these young kids all the time? We do that. So in doing that, each group also has their own set of mentors that are assigned to it. So no one mentor is assigned to one kid. But if in the course of our interactions that we have as groups, that natural relationships are built. When you have discussions, people naturally gravitate towards people. So instead of trying to force that mentor relationship, a lot of times they're naturally created. And in doing that, in opening the floor to our young men to be able to have those, unencumbered discussions, it builds that trust over time. And we bring our young men in as young as 3rd grade. So we have some young men from 3rd grade all the way until they graduate from high school in 12th grade. And so by then, by that point, you're a part of the family. I have a mentee I've been working with since 2016. And literally when we go on family trips, I call him like, hey, can he go with us? Because that's my guy, he has football games. I go to his games, and that's what I try to do for, as many of my guys as possible. But when you can do that, now I can sit you down and talk to you about sex if it comes down to it, because it's not like I came out of the woodwork as
Right.
Hey, little boy, let me tell you about this. It's like, no. We talk about everything. This is just another part of everything that we already talk about. So it's really important that in mentorship that you build those relationships. I believe the saying is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. By the time we got to the sex discussion, I've already built in years, if not months of trust, showing that, yeah, I'm not going to do anything or tell you anything that's not going to be beneficial to you as a person.
Thank you. Thank you for the work you all do. So my last question is, we may have someone out here, like you said earlier, I want to start a mentoring program, or I want to be a mentor. What are the first 3 things they need to do or ask themselves before they go down that road?
All right. So the first thing I'll tell them to ask themselves, if they decided they wanted a mentoring program, I would first ask, do you have time for a mentoring program? Do you have resources for a mentoring program? Do you have a mentor yourself to teach you and guide you through how to run a mentoring program? I would start there. And then I would say, identify what is the goal of your mentoring program, right? So, like what is the end game? What are kids going to be able to do or be able to say that they can do because they were a part of your program that they wouldn't have been able to do without your mentoring program? And then the third thing I'll tell them to do, not last because there's so many more other steps, but just generalizing, identifying what the metrics will be that you will measure your success for as a mentoring program. As somebody who runs a mentoring program, I can tell you that you're going to need money. All right, you're going to need money to run it. And the one thing that funders need to know, people who have the big bucks, who have the deep pockets, what they want to know is, what are the numbers? What's the data? If you don't have the data, they're not going to give you anything, no matter how many sad stories you can pull out of a box, no matter how many letters you have written by parents saying how great you are. If you don't have the data to go behind what you're saying you do, they don't care.
So I didn't tell the truth. I have one more question. Has the way you mentored changed during the pandemic? So I know you mentioned that you implemented Making Proud Choices virtually, and that your daughter participated, but the rest of your mentoring program, moving forward, in the pandemic, what does that look like?
So great question. So we actually, before this, we actually were doing, we would meet in person 3 times a month. We had second Saturdays, which were our club meetings where we do our training. We have our specific focus on our 5 points of emphasis: healthy relationships, leadership, college preparation, career exploration, and financial literacy. That's the financial literacy already?
Nope.
All right, yeah, financial literacy is the 5th one. So that'll be second Saturday. Third Saturdays, we get together for fun activities. And then fourth Saturdays, we get together for community service, because community service is something that we value very highly here at Lowcountry Youth Services. Because of COVID, we've had to go away from that, and we move more so in the virtual. And what we're doing with virtual is on our second Saturdays, we have our club meetings virtually. So those same groups meet up. We just meet through Google Meets, which I probably going to switch to Zoom, but that's a whole other topic for another day. But we meet up. We have those same discussions. We still try to be as impactful as possible. we have been trying to get together with our kids because that personal touch is important. Being able to see them and really put eyes on them and make sure they're good is important. So we were trying to do outdoor things. We did a basketball hangout a few weeks ago, which was pretty cool. We look forward to doing that, something like that again. We'll probably do something similar once a month, just to make sure that we are making those touches. But just being flexible and making sure that no matter what it takes, we're still making those touches. Doing virtual calls, like we moved into using technology. We have a Marco Polo group where we just get in there, we send each other positive messages. I may get in there and just say, hey, good morning, guys, and and we all just tell each other good morning, because sometimes you just need somebody to tell you good morning, so you'll notice good morning.
You do.
But making sure that we're still making that touch is so important, and that's why I have to go back to that point about the fact that mentoring is something that you really have to be invested in. Do you need 8 hours a day to dedicate to mentoring if you're a volunteer mentor? No, but you need to at least be able to make consistent contact with these young people, because they're depending on us. Once we make that commitment, that they're looking to us, they're leaning to us. I have a young man who I've been helping, who's in my program, and I didn't even realize how impactful I was in his life. But he just like his mom just messaged me yesterday and asked me, would I walk with him across the field for his senior night? Like when stuff like that's happening, that shows you that it's much more than just let's take a picture because I want people to know that I'm mentoring. Like no. This thing is bigger. These kids are depending on us. And whether or not, like that same kid, I could have abandoned that kid and he not graduated. And there's nothing to say that he wouldn't have, but we don't know that he would have. So I'd rather not take the chance of saying to a kid, I'm going to commit to you, and then not commit.
Again, thank you so much, ReZsaun, for your contribution to the Lowcountry, but also to the young, in investing in the young people in the state. So I know that you have a summer camp coming up in 2020. Do you want to tell our viewers a little about that before I close?
All right, so every summer, so one thing that we do with Lowcountry Youth Services all through the year, we bring our young men in August, and from August until May, our young men bust their humps. They're coming to meetings, they're making sure that they're being respectful, they're doing good in school, or the best they can in school, if not, excelling and doing the best that they can. And they're doing community service. And so we have a certain amount of requirements that we have throughout the year that qualify them for the end of the year retreat. Every year, every summer, we take them out of town for an end of the year retreat. 4 years ago, we went to Charlotte, and every time we go out of town, we always do a college tour. So we went to Charlotte and we toured UNC Charlotte. We went to Myrtle Beach, we toured Coastal Carolina. We actually went to Tuskegee, Alabama 1 year. And we went to Atlanta in 2019. We wanted to tour a college. I'm not going to say which one, but they didn't want to let our kids on campus. So I'm not going to talk about that. But they know who they are. They're watching.
It's unfortunate, but missed out.
Yes, they missed out. But the next one that we're doing this year is Washington, D.C. We're taking our young men to Washington, D.C. for 4 days. And we need your help. Any money that you can donate to help support this cause, we greatly appreciate it. I have the website up here. Well, I'll put it inside the comment section. It's www.give28.org/story/DGC takes DC 2021. And
I'll make sure that's posted.
Please post it. If you just Google DGC takes DC 2021, it'll pop up. But the budget's in there. What we're looking for, what we need is all in there. If you have any further questions, please email me, rlewis@dgcmentor.org, rlewis@dgcmentor.org.
Thank you so much. In the spirit of openness, I really do hope this question and answer gave our viewers another perspective when it comes to mentoring. Don't forget to check out other events that we have going on this month. Visit www.factforward.org or follow us on all social media platforms at factforward.org. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful and safe evening.